Grace, mercy, and peace to you from God our Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. It's all still so vivid. I remember it just like it was yesterday. Those hot, muggy, humid days right at the close of summer. Getting off that bus and having those anxious, anxiety, just terrible, nervous feelings fill me with dread. You smell the scent of fresh cut grass mixed with icy hot and new running spikes. There's all these people running around, already perspiring, even though they decide to wear these warm-ups, these windbreakers, when it's 90 degrees out. Everybody's nervous, but especially me. We all start stretching and warming up, and that's when the thoughts really get rolling. Can I do this? Will I lose? It just doesn't get better as we get closer. Even though I have my headphones in and I'm jamming away to whatever it is, try not to think about it. Just getting limbered up. But soon you're on that line. Every muscle in your body is tense. You're afraid. And then the starter raises his hand. Can I do this? A crack. Gun smoke. And we're off. You see, I ran cross country in both high school and college. And I just had terrible nerves. It was awful. I mean, you think you'd get used to it. But the longer I was in it, for the 6 or 7 years I ran, every single race, I was just this ball of nervousness, all the way up until that gun went off. And it just was terrible. Fear choking you, even though you know what's coming. But I don't know if the fear was more from fear of failure, or if it was just the fact that I had to run 3.1 miles again as fast as I could, and it hurts. But whatever it was, every single time, there was this nervousness, this fear that I had. And why am I telling you about this? Well, it's because in our epistle reading today, we hear talk of another race. Actually, specifically, the author of the Hebrews says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." And so this talk of this race that we have to run, this is all in a statement that is this conclusion to one of the greatest expositions of faith found in the New Testament. And in order to look at this conclusion and understand what the author is saying, we need to see what he says in the chapter before, in verse 11. And in that chapter, in verse 11, he just goes through explaining faith, using as examples these great faith heroes of the Old Testament. And he talks about several different people. And a common thread with each of these heroes is they have to overcome great odds, great fears, in order to do something amazing. Each one of them is filled with faith that God works in their hearts so that they can overcome the terrible fears set before them. And the first one that is talked about in our reading today, starting in verse 17, is Abraham. And what is this fear that he has? You see, Abraham, as you all probably know, was waiting for a promise, for a son that God had promised him. And Abraham was old. Both he and his wife were old, and they thought it was too late. There was no way they were having kids, but God said he would. And God gave them a son, even though his wife was barren and she was old. And this promised son was the son that was supposed to start this long legacy It was going to be the father of a great nation. But then God kind of switches it up on him and says, no, I want you to take this son, this gift that you've been waiting for, and I want you to sacrifice him to me. I don't know, I'm not a father. But for those of you who are parents out there, can you even imagine? Can you imagine what that would be like? To have to be asked to kill your own son or daughter. This was a terrifying experience. Can you imagine as he brought his son out there, led him out, as Isaac probably helped him build this altar, as they stacked the wood, as he binds Isaac and puts him up on this altar, the fear that fills him as he raises the knife to kill his son. Gosh, it's terrifying. But you see, God worked faith in his heart. Abraham trusted God. He trusted that the Lord would do what was best. And in that faith, he went about doing what God asked him to. And at the very last moment, as the knife was raised, God tells him to stop. God provided a lamb, and Isaac, his son, was safe. In the face of that terrible, fearful situation, faith shone through and overcame. And next, we see Moses. And we all know Moses. He is the greatest of the prophets. He is the strong man that led Israel out of bondage in Egypt. And it says here that even though he had to go and face the most powerful man, the most powerful nation in the world, and just kind of tell him to buzz off, he's taking his people, he went and did it. Faith shone through there as well. Because it says that he considered the reproach of Christ, this faith that he had in the coming Savior, greater than the wealth of the treasuries of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. He left Egypt, not being afraid of the anger of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. And what does this mean here? Not being afraid. Was Moses just such an awesome guy? Was he just a strong man that he could go and do the most terrifying thing anyone at the time could think of? And just, he's got it. He's fine. Didn't break a sweat. No, actually, if you look at Moses and his personality, and you go back farther, looking at the beginning of the story, Moses wasn't always this rock. When he first encounters God in the burning bush, you see him, he's terrified, which, that's explainable. That's understandable. He's facing the God of the universe. I was scared too. But after this, knowing who it is who is speaking to him, he's afraid of what God asks him to do. When God says, you're going to go back to Israel and you're going to do this, you're going to bring my people out of there, what does Moses say? Yeah, I got this. I'm going to go do that. No. He throws up every roadblock he can because it's scary. I mean, first off, he just says, well, who am I? Why should I go do this thing? Why am I good enough? And God says, no, I'll be with you. I'll be with you. And so Moses says, well, who do I say? Who do I say is sending me? Well, and then God tells him, tell him this. And then he says, well, no. They won't believe me. There's no way. Oh, they will. I'm just a terrible speaker. I just can't do it. Every time God fixes it, says, I'm with you, Moses, he doesn't want to do it. He's afraid. But despite that, God puts faith in his heart. And he goes. Even though God has to kind of pull him kicking and screaming there, he goes to Egypt. And through this man, who seemed like a wimp in the beginning, God does these amazing things. He conquers fear, and and brings his people out of slavery and bondage. And it's just crazy thinking that these normal people, one after another, God uses faith in their lives, empowers them to do these ridiculous things in the face of all odds, in the most terrifying of situations. But as we look at this, we think it's all crazy. There's no way. I mean, what does this have to do with me? But the issue is that fear, this is something we run into every day. You cannot live this life without being afraid at some point, without having some terrifying thing come up. You have the small fears and the big fears, whatever it is. Everyone sees them daily because it's the human experience. Fear is a part of what we experience in this life. And we see that even when we look to Christ. Because Christ was fully God, but he was fully man. He experienced all the same things that we did, and we do. And so, it's just natural. He experienced fear himself. We can see this as he's sitting in the garden praying, waiting, asking his Father, please take this cup from me if it's your will. He's scared because some scary things were going to happen. He knew what he was about to experience. He knew that in the next day, the next couple days, he was going to have to go through the worst of betrayals. He was going to feel the most excruciating, terrible pain. And the worst, heart-piercing sadness as he hung on that cross and watched what these people did to him. But he did it. Despite that fear, Christ did it. He faced every one of our worst nightmares on that cross. He faced our worst fears and death itself and died. But then he rose. And in that act, in rising, he conquered every single one of the fears that makes us tremble. Everything that you could be afraid of in life has been conquered in his act of dying and rising. He overcame it all. And it is through that we can have faith. Through that we are baptized into Christ, and his victories become our own. Now we can have this faith to face everything, every fear that we can see, we know can be overcome by this faith that God works in our hearts. And it doesn't matter what it is, because there's a lot of scary things. It doesn't. Coming back to the U.S., you just see there's all this fear about all these different things, whether it's what's going to happen with our country, where are we going in politics. It's so scary. Have faith, Christ is Lord. Whether it's acts of violence. Being in Europe, there's acts of violence. Everywhere you look, every other day, somebody's getting hurt. Someone is causing pain. Have faith. Christ is Lord. There's sickness and cancer and terrible things that come into our lives and try and choke us with fear. But have faith. Christ has defeated all of it. Christ is Lord. Actually, 3 weeks ago, my family underwent one of the most terrifying experiences of our lives. We were in Hallstatt, Austria, which, this is one of the most beautiful places in the world. We had gone through a very stressful day of traveling, but made it. And we get to this beautiful alpine town that is surrounded by the mountains with this beautiful lake right in the middle. And we get to our hotel, which is, we're on the 3rd floor in these beautiful suites overlooking all of this. And, we're all tired and getting ready to go to eat, but like brothers tend to do, Matthew and I got restless, my 21-year-old brother, and we started horsing around. Because it doesn't matter how old you are, when brothers get together, and that's what you do, apparently. Finally, one thing leads to another. Matthew decides that it would be a great idea if I would take a cheese puff and throw it from the third-story balcony down to him on the ground level. Which, although it seemed like a great idea at the time, it didn't end that well. Matthew jumped to catch this cheese puff, and as he landed, he lost his balance, and he rolled backwards, falling off a 16-foot wall and landing on the street below him. As this happened, my sister and I were the only ones watching, and we saw him disappear over the side of the wall, heard his body hit, and then heard his screams that ensued. And all we could think to do is run down as fast as we could. We had to get down there. And that's when fear started to take hold. Is he going to die? How broken is he? What is going to happen? And as we're running, screaming down these flights of stairs, Mom and Dad don't even know what's happening. They just hear us yelling, "Matthew fell, Matthew fell." And so they run down as well. And as soon as I get to him, he's lying on the ground, surrounded by a few different Austrian tourists. And I immediately just grab him and start asking him questions. "Matthew, are you there? Where are we? How old are you? Just whatever. Is he there?" And he starts answering. But I was just choking on fear. And the next thing I know is my mom, who has no idea what really happened, she thought he fell from a third-story window and then rolled off the 16-foot wall afterwards. And she is positive Matthew is going to die. She is about to watch the last moments of her son's life. And so I hear her running, and as she runs, she's screaming, "Dear Jesus, save my boy. Dear Jesus, save my sweet boy." And once she gets to him, she got down on her knees and brushes his long blonde hair out of his face and says, "Matthew, you know Jesus has you. Matthew, you know Jesus is with you." And in that moment, as fear was surrounding all of us, we didn't know if we were going to lose him. We didn't know if he's going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. Christ worked in our hearts, in my mother's heart, as she called out to him, that through the fear, that faith overcame. Because Matthew was in the hands of his Savior, who has defeated all of our fears and death itself, that whether in life or death, Matthew is Jesus Christ. And in that, we have hope, and we have faith. And ultimately, Matthew's okay. He is going to be in a back brace and in a boot for 4 or 5 more weeks. And he's more bored than anything, but God protected him from worse injury. But all the same, it was this scary situation in which God brought us through. And that is the sort of thing that no matter what happens, what shakes you up in life, whatever fear threatens to overcome you, Christ is our Savior who defeated it all. And it is in that knowledge and that hope that we can live our lives, not being bound by our fears, not living in fear day to day, but knowing, keeping our eyes fixed upon Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And it is in this knowledge that we can hear this conclusion that the author of the Hebrews gives. It is in this knowledge that we can hear, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin and fear which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. Brothers and sisters, no matter what this world throws at you, no matter what fears you endure, hear these words. Run the race with your eyes fixed upon Christ Jesus, who is the ground and the fount of your faith.